good afternoon. How are you? How's everyone? We are now waiting for people to join the call. So just a couple of minutes so more people can join in. Uh, Welcome, everyone. This is an open meeting of sorts of the Brazil Brokers Group. Today, open to investors as well, not only for our employees. We usually have this meeting for those who are first joining the company. We do this once a week, every Friday at 3 p.m. And it's usually open to all our employees. But today we decided to make it also available to all. So feel free. It's a very informal atmosphere. And feel free to ask questions, post questions via chat. This is a meeting where we'll be presenting some materials we have put together. This should take about 40 minutes, and then after that, we'll have a Q&A session. Okay, so once again, welcome and feel free to join in whenever you are ready. Two more minutes for people to join. So in 2 more minutes, we'll get started. Once again, just as a reminder, I am at the office, so is Monique. Guilherme is also in the office, and we're not wearing masks because we are socially distanced from one another. See, at least 5 meters to the next person. So that's why we are not wearing masks. Okay, just to be sure. Uh, the others are at their homes, and that's why they're not well wearing masks as well. Okay. And I think Yogi is also at the office, but once again, we're all socially distanced as per the protocol. For the employees just joining now, this is a slightly different meeting from what we usually have on Fridays. As you know, we usually use Zoom. This time we decided to choose a slightly different environment, just as we do at home when we invite people from the outside, we sort of change things. We bring in flowers. We try to make our homes more attractive to our guests. And today we have guests who are here especially for the meeting, our investors, people who are interested in understanding Brazil Brokers' strategy and also that of our partner companies. So do not be scared if you're just joining at what you see. I know it's slightly different in terms of look, but it's all for the better. I think then we can start. So once again, everyone, welcome. This is a meeting that we usually have, as I just said. We have this open meeting, which usually takes place every Friday at 3 p.m. with all company employees. This time, we decided to have more people joining in so that people from outside the company can follow and watch what we do. And we have put together a very interesting set of materials to share with you all today so that you can better understand Brazil Brokers Group, the partner companies. At the end of the presentation, which should last for about 40 to 50 minutes, we'll have then an opportunity to ask questions. This should last until 5, give or take, no pre-established length of time. The idea is to have a nice interactive meeting. So once the presentation is over, or even during the presentation, if you want to send your questions via our chat box, please feel free. In our open meetings, all employees are able to send questions, comments, compliments, or complaints or discussions. It's a very, very interactive type of meeting. And I hope we can replicate that atmosphere here today within this collaborative spirit. The meeting today emerged from a conversation with one of our investors, Gabriel Garcia. He once called me and asked whether one of you want to ask questions, make suggestions, and so on. You can use our RI channel, ri.brazilbrokers.com.br, and we'll address your comments, questions. So Gabriel sent a suggestion, which was for us to have an open meeting for investors. So we decided to combine that investor meeting with that meeting with the employees and have a big open meeting, including all of you. Brazil Brokers Group is made up of several different companies. We have here on the screen Desenrola, Brazil Brokers for sales and leasing, Abiara, Bomberg, and those companies have a specific purpose. They have a different audience that they service to. And that's why they exist as different brands, as standalone brands. Each one of them has different characteristics, different functions, different objectives. And today, we'll try and explain a little bit of Desenrola and Credit Morar. Before we start, congratulations to our brokers. Today is Brokers Day, August the 27th. So a big congrats to all our brokers who help us or help people accomplish their dreams, help people materialize their housing projects, buy homes, providing credit, providing opportunities. So that's one of the aspects that characterizes this real estate journey. So congratulations to all of you brokers, and also congratulations to Bamberg, which turns 35 years old today on the day of the broker. That's quite a good coincidence. And as I said, we are not wearing masks if you just join the call because we are socially distanced here at the office, okay? Just to be sure. That's why we're not using masks. I am sitting at about 5 meters from the person sitting closest to me. So that's why we're conducting this meeting without the need to wear masks. Can we move on to the next slide, please? Okay. So for the agenda for the day is the following. But before we do that, I'd like to make an arrangement with you. We won't be providing any guidance about the future or guidance overall. The objective here today is to talk about this last year, where we have a new management operating at the company, everything we did or we've done in the past 12 months. There were several important topics we had to address, especially with investors. Employees are here every day, so they know what's going on. But for investors, investors want to understand what we're doing. That's the main driver, the main motivation for our meeting today. And as Andrea said, we needed to get our act together before we brought in guests. We couldn't have a messy house, as it were, to receive guests. So we got the living room in order, we got the house in order, because it's been a very, very busy year, but we are on the right track. I have no doubt about it. People who are here every day know that. We have brought the house to order, and now we are able to and ready to receive you all, investors and employees, to talk a little bit about what's happening with the company, where we are right now, and of course, everything that has been done aims at positioning the company in the future in an exponential growth uh, place. So many good things to come, many good things ahead of us. But as I said, we won't be talking about guidance. Of course, that would uh, lend itself to inform our competition, right? So we will hold on to certain bits of information, okay? Just to be sure. So today we'll be talking about the digital transformation the company has been going through for the past year. Also say that the team we're going to be meeting today, of course, they represent only part of the company, but you can already see them. But the company, of course, has many other talents which are not here today. So there are several other people who have helped us achieve these results. The management team is an example. We simply wouldn't be able to include all those topics within today's agenda for 2 hours. So we chose to select different topics. We're going to be talking about also results that have been reached. But in addition to that, and I think you have been following on our results, I am sure of that, Q1, Q2, we'll be talking about what happens between revenue and income. What happens? How do we move from revenues, things happening, and then we have, at the end of the day, a bottom line? How do we get from the first line to the bottom line of the balance sheet? We're going to be talking about Desenrola, one of the digital transformation companies in the group. We're going to be talking about Credit Murar. For Desenrola, we'll have Guilherme B. Ribeiro, Desenrola, Credit Murar, Thiago, and then we're going to be talking about tech transformation. And on behalf of that front, we'll have Bassetti speaking. So in a minute, I'll introduce him to you. And lastly, we have an important point about cultural transformation, culture. And this is a surprise, maybe not so much of a surprise to employees, but this is the first time we're going to be talking about purpose and values, something we started doing early in the year with the participation of almost everyone in the company. Several people bought into the program throughout the year, and we'll now, for the first time, communicate what we've been doing on that cultural transformation front, what we chose to be our values and our purpose. Before we move on to the next slide, I'd like to say that it's been a great pleasure to put that material together. We've been on it for about 2 weeks now, getting this ready for today. And it's a very true snapshot of our working environment after 1 year of very hard work. We had a very positive collaborative experience. We used a piece of software called web software to put that material together, so the different participants had the chance to work on their respective share whenever they had the time to. So it was a very agile way to approach that, and we've been using that across many of our processes, and that, of course, uh, reassures us that this is a very, very faithful picture of what the company is. Of course, there were moments where we needed to meet in person at the company, at the office. There were moments where we could discuss, everybody could voice their concerns, and people had their different opinions. But at the end of the day, we were able to transform all of those contributions into this presentation geared towards results. So people gave in when they had to, they accepted other people's contributions, they made their interventions in a very uh, positive, fruitful environment. So this was a real accomplishment. It's not just hot air. We're really doing it, working in a collaborative manner. We are walking the talk. So without further ado, let's get on with the presentation. For this past year, about a year ago, in August last year, there was a change in the company's management. The main thing to do at the time was to act upon the opportunities that were available to reduce waste within the company. And we started to put together a strategic plan, which in the fourth quarter was finally completed. That strategic journey lasted 5 years. Uh, the management teams of all companies in the group were part of those discussions, and we eventually got to the end of that cycle. After the strategic planning, we started defining projects and also defining the main performance KPIs that would influence our strategic planning. A very important point that emerged in Q4 was putting together the sustainability front based on ESG practices. We'll be talking about ESG in a moment. We're going to go deeper in that in a moment, but just to be sure, that topic emerged at the center of our discussions early on. In the first quarter of 2021, we implemented a program to align compensation plans. So the idea was to align everyone's compensation, everyone in the group. So we put together a plan that contemplated bonuses, a program by which people reap benefits based on meritocracy. We also implemented within the holding and in some companies of the group, we implemented a model using OPR methodology to monitor KPIs. And in the first quarter, we also concluded this reorganization or restructuring of the company. And the second quarter, this last quarter, Q2 2021, we, well, something we had started early in the second quarter, and we are concluding it today, this first phase of the cultural transformation process where we'll be announcing behaviors, purposes, values across all employees of Brazil Brokers Group. And then early in the second quarter, we redesigned the technology and management structure and combined it under an agile model. So today we have a very robust structure with a management and IT team working and models with sprints, SPADs, very interesting model. if we one day have an opportunity to go deeper in that model, it would be worth a while to talk about it.
So, next slide. Let's talk about digital transformation. The main topic of today is digital transformation and client experience. As I mentioned before, during our strategic planning, we define four strategic drivers, and they are profitability, digital transformation, client experience, and ecosystem. In this presentation, we bring some information of those strategic drivers, and we will address two of them, digital transformation and client experience. A question that was asked last week was why digital transformation? Why adopt this? And the best answer for that is to improve the client's experience. This is a company which is client centered, so it's focused on the client. Client is in the center of all our decisions. And how do we go about it? What are the indicators? How do we do that? In order to provide a better experience for the client through this digital transformation, we look at four elements. A company that has high conversion rate for brokers, all the brokers who work for Brazil brokers who sell more than in other places. We may mention quality in service, or pillar is also efficient processes. So we address processes where we look for efficiencies with each of our employees. And obviously, we have assertive marketing so that we can bring in a better experience for the client to find what is that real estate that the client is looking for, be able to rent or purchase the right property for the client. That's why we talk about the pillars. When we talk about high conversion rate, we have to mention a model that we have developed that is related to shared information. That makes us to have a high conversion rate for the broker and also a high conversion rate to the client. So the client that is offering the property to us or the client who's looking for real estate. When we talk about service level quality, we talk about production by means of force of sales or partners. Why do we talk about service level when we talk about partners? Because a partner who can sell more has a higher affinity with the client. We can train, the churn is higher, so we can make this partner or this employee can be more engaged and the employer will work more happily. And talking about happiness, the metrics that we use for that indicator is the NPS, which is the Net Promoter Score, which is an indicator that varies from 0 to 6. From 7 to 8, it would be neutral, and 9 to 10 is regarded as positive. Today at the company, we are at a range of perfecting, so it varies from minus 100 and from 50 to 75 means quality, and 75 to 100 is related to excellence. So we are at the top of the perfecting zone and we are going after the quality zone. When we talk about efficient processes, how we go about it? We automate the processes all the time so that we can the make the revenue per employee better. And as for the marketing, we look for organic leads, our own channels, and through this, we can see that the cost of acquisition for the client is higher. So we are going to see that along the presentation, we are going to talk about the four elements all the time because this is part of our daily lives. And it's very important to have the employees on board and they know what I'm talking about. So it's a meeting where investors are attending, employees are also attending, and this is so good because we talk about what's actually happening at the company. Shall we then? On next slide, we are going to talk about who we are. With us today is Andrea, our CFO, Carlos Bassetti, who is responsible for the technology area, Bloomer, who is responsible for marketing and digital transformation, Mr. Ribeiro, who is head of Desenrola, Monique, who is the manager of Cultura, and Tiago Teixeira, who is the head of Credimorar. For those who have just joined in, this is just a cutout of the company. There are many other talents working with us, many other business heads, Bamberg, Brasil brokers, from Niterói. There are so many other business heads, but since we are discussing digital transformation and the client experience, we wanted to focus on two initiatives that overflow to other companies as well. On next slide, Andrea will tell us a little bit about the financial result of the company. Good afternoon, everyone. Um, we'll be discussing the results of the company. This is a slide which is not so new to everyone because you have already known our figures in the earnings results call. But I would like to point out that in the first half of 2021, we made 21%, 71% of what we did the whole year of 2020. And when we compare to 2019, in the first quarter 2021, even considering the effects of the pandemic, the results were much higher than any quarter of 2019. So, in other words, what I mean to say is that all the actions included in the previous slides and the new Brazil brokers that Daniel mentioned are coming true as an important result in terms of revenues and showing the gross results of the company. When we look at the first quarter 2021, we can see that gross margin of the company was about this at the as much as the first half of the other period. And the pandemic started in March on the 18th, and the first quarter was highly impacted because of all the lockdowns, and we had many units that had to close, the stores had to close. So we had a significant impact in the first quarter 2021. So the evolution of this gross margin is was driven by the improvement in the performance and management of the cost of the company. We were very strict in implementing and controlling the costs of the company. And all this is part of the message we would like to give you in terms of the results of the company. I point this out again because this has shown a great evolution for the company when we look at those specific results. Thank you. And now we are going to discuss the gross result as a measure, some metrics, when we can see the adaptability that we have when we operate in the market. In 2017, we started this change in the company in terms of gross results, and this was a need that we had at that time, and this is a strength that we have. Why do I say that? The real estate market is not going to stand still all the time. It's a very dynamic market, and for us to have this composition of gross results at the company will allow us to manage to have a company which is very adaptable, very flexible, a light company that manages to adapt to the market needs as they emerge. This transformation allows us to do this, and it brings us this possibility of working with fewer brokers. As I said before on some slides, we focus on one indicator that allows us to give more possibilities to each broker. So the point is not to have more or fewer brokers, but we would rather make the company more efficient. And to that end, we managed to make some changes in the past few years, which was very significant. And with that, we have fewer brokers than we used to have in the past, but the inventory of products much higher, and therefore we can give more opportunities for each of the brokers to work and to be more efficient. And we see this result when we look at the revenues. When Andrea mentioned the revenues, we can clearly see that there was a hike, which is part of the strategy. It's a result of a strategy that had been planned in the fourth quarter last year, and it was implemented, and we are now beginning to see the results. When we talk about changing performance, we talk about two important indicators, three in fact. One, two are on the graph, and the other one is between the lines. In 6 months, we improved by 13% this ratio between fixed cost and revenue. So we have a lower fixed cost for each revenue that we have generated. So the fixed cost is lower, and we have a very important delta for this result. And we started at 50%, and we stand now at 36%, and we want this ratio to reduce even further. When we talk about revenue, the graph on the right, so this is the revenue per head count. We can see that there has been a growth in the company. This is something that we wanted to grow. We wanted to decrease the fixed cost in relation to revenue, and the revenue per head count we wanted to increase, and this is what we have been doing every quarter, reaching a level which is quite interesting already for our employees. But the planning is very well structured in order to do that. And how can we grow in this area? We are going to automate our processes. Remember, when we mentioned the drivers, strategic drivers and indicators. So when we automate the processes, when we train people, when we have seniority in the team, we manage to increase the revenue per head count. So, and when we talk about brokers specifically, we can see that we have increased. When we compare quarter on quarter, we increased by 55% the revenue of each of the brokers that sold and what they took home as a result. So this is the most important performance change that we have reported. And this is something always looking at. We want our business partner to gain, to make more money. So if money is earned, everybody earns. And the chain will be very positive and very interesting. The company has very clear and interesting indicators where everyone can monitor this. As I said, in those open meetings that we hold every Friday, in fact, we disclose those indicators. We have a routine when we show the OKR for all operators so that everybody can monitor the metrics and everybody who is with us can understand their role in the result of the company. When we talk about ESG, we ask ourselves, why are we talking about ESG when we address results? So this is something that I'm asked very often, and my answer is yes, ESG is at the right place. And paraphrasing Peter Drucker, more than doing the things right is to do the right things. So ESG is exactly the right thing to do, and we have to do it right, the right thing, and this is going to bring us results. This will make the team involved, engaged, and will keep an atmosphere which is favorable to innovation. And all those initiatives that are here can be implemented in the environment area. We have this in the social part is where we have a better performance. We can see we have an enormous movement with involving all the team, and it's very important that everybody should understand everything we're doing in the social aspect. We changed the board, and 40% of our board members are women, and so we have more diversity in our board, and this brings us better generation of ideas. So the company has the capacity to be better represented in the board because the company had a lot of diversity, but not the board. But now with Juliana and Monica, we have improved this, and they have brought benefits in terms of the new economy, and we have a better representativeness at the board. And we also have another movement when we deliver 10 houses to needy families. And this was a group that involved employees and other companies and clients. And we also have one activity, which is be an entrepreneur at a young age, where we give talks to young public, and we have had good attendance. Still about ESG, there was a question, and I'm answering some questions that I can see here. And I have included this question in the presentation. I was asked why ESG is included in the people area. I would like to answer this in a very clear manner. ESG is not in the area of people. In Brazil, brokers, it's in the entire company. People is just a curatorship that is carried out in this area. So ESG only operates if the company as a whole embraces the idea. It's not something which we do only to for as an appearance. We believe in all pillars of governance, social, environmental, and all the companies of the group embrace this and take part in all this initiative. So this is an area which is permeates all the companies of Brazil Brokers Company, all the employees and all the holding, and we are very proud of it.
Well, I think it took me a bit longer than I had expected. I think it took me about half an hour to cover my bit, but I hope you have enjoyed. Now I turn it over to you, and I'll be back at the end. Over to you, Andrea. Well, Andrea, well, Guilherme, I'll be brief. The company's EBITDA, uh, this slide has been shown at the earnings call, so that's nothing new. It's an open piece of information. All our presentations have that information. This is just to show you as a result of everything Daniel has been mentioning about transformations that have been on. So transformations need to lead to financial results, and that's proof of that. Our EBITDA shows that. The company's operational EBITDA without including liabilities, and that's another topic I'll be addressing after that, an EBITDA of 2.4 million, a positive number. So from the first Q of 2019, a year, a year where we had uh, a more normal, quote unquote, economy, we still hadn't had a positive EBITDA by then. So the first Q 2021, we were able to break even. And in Q2, we can see a positive result. And for us, this is the result of a lot of hard work that the team has put in terms of restructuring, adjusting, cost control, turning the company into a lighter enterprise, bringing down expense levels, at the same time being sustainable. So even with higher or lower expenses, we still are able to service our clients with quality. And speaking a bit of our legal liabilities, something also addressed at the earnings call, we have been evolving quite well along that front. If we were to look at the first quarter of 2021, we had two lawsuits which were new. Then in Q2, no new lawsuit. So in our liabilities stock, of course, is there because this dates back to 2015, 2016. There's no getting around it. We need to manage that somehow. But the good news is that we have no new lawsuits, and we closed Q2 with zero new lawsuits, new labor lawsuits. And that's yet another takeaway message to all investors. That's an area which is totally under control, where we're very comfortable with. We can move on to the next slide, please. Over to Guilherme. Thank you, Andrea. So I'll be talking about marketing and performance and overall numbers, especially for finished products, primary launch markets. Our topic today is based on digital transformation and to what extent we are able to communicate with leads and prospect clients through digital channels. So this is a very fundamental pillar of our digital transformation strategy. In this first half of the year, Q1 and Q2, we had an overall amount of 72% of all leads with which we interact in those two markets, they came through digital channels. I'm talking about our own websites or vertical portals, social media. Today we have about 19,000 leads a month. A very important piece of data here that shows that growth, when we compare Q1 and Q2, we grew the number of leads coming from digital, and that was due to leads coming from our websites and also due to a growth in the number of launches in the primary market. We're going to be talking about it down the road in the next slides. Next one, please. When we talk about lead origin broken down by segment, we see that the main driver for business for the company, the finished product line, is the digital channels at 71% or 83%. So relationships that start in the channel, digital channel. We have also been growing in our own channels, as I said. The market is much more competitive in terms of going after leads. There is an inflation in the cost per click at Google, especially in non-proprietary channels. But still, despite of that, we were able to move up the scale when we compare quarter on quarter for the finished product market. For the primary market, that growth was also there in a more modest way, but it still shows a very strong trend. The omni-channel approach, usually when you have a launch, you have a very strong demand in terms of lead generation offline at the product's micro region. So when you remove that from the primary market, and also depending on the segment, of course, that takes more time. Still, we are growing those numbers also for the primary market, also using digital channels. Next, please. When we talk about the origin of sales for certain channels, we have a share of sales very strong under the finished products columns on the left-hand side at 67% in Q1 and then 68% in Q2. We went up one notch. That red dotted line is the average, national average, which now sits at around 50, 52%, coming from different real estate markets with which we have relationship. That number has been improving. That assessment is made based on conversion rates and cost of acquisition of most or the more attractive clients. But we have been following a very positive track, as you can see, in terms of the average national numbers. Despite the primary market, backtrack one slide, please, one more. Okay. Even though we have a lower share in the primary market in terms of online leads, in the case of original sales, we had a share which slightly dropped. Well, that depends on the niche where you are launching the products. So the strength of the sales team, we had a limitation on physical visits because of the pandemic. So in-person sales were also, of course, affected. So the offline channels were more affected. But we still have a very significant share of sales when compared to the national average, which sits around 35%, as you can see on the slide. Now, next, please. Conversion rates now. And when I say that, I'm talking about the volume of leads vis-a-vis the concrete transaction. When we look at the finished products line, we saw a growth from one quarter to the other. The national average sits around 2.2%. That average increased. because of leads coming from our own channels, our own websites of our companies, despite the fact, as I mentioned, that we had slightly higher difficulties in competing with a market where usually have a stronger Q2 when compared to Q1, also for primary. So we have a higher competition. And Google, for example, is an example. When you want to buy words at Google, depending on your campaign, you will see a, a higher competition. So that um, takes prices up. Still, we were able to improve our own channels, and we saw an improvement in our conversion rates. As for the primary market, have a very positive highlight, a growth of 1%, more than doubled. The number of launches, of course, helped us. But most importantly, we're talking about a strategy to generate campaign density. So we're very robust in that respect in the primary market. So when you're able to place your bets on certain launches, certain products, and increasing lead generation, then you can understand what the best channels are. And then you can improve your conversion rates. The primary market took a very significant leap, and that has to do, of course, with our pre-service numbers. Abiara is one example. Abiara passes those leads on to our brokers. Next, please. As Danielle mentioned, the metrics that we use to assess our digital transformation, what we call CAC, the cost of client acquisition, that's key. If you're not familiar with the CAC indicator, we have marketing costs within a period of time. We assess the number of sales vis-a-vis the ones we had in our radar, and then we have the cost of client acquisition. We had a flat picture in the finished product line. That slight increase happened because a reduction in the number of leads. I'll give an example, a vertical, for example. Unlike Google campaigns, where I can work around my demand, buying words, for vertical portals, you will announce a package, a bundle, a closed package. That's why the number of leads it tends to drop, and of course, price goes up. That's why you have a slightly higher cost of client acquisition. As for the primary market, the reduction is really, really exceptional. Once again, the number of launches also helped. The strategy we've been following in terms of working with different channels, working with uh, better products in terms of liquidity. And most of our primary market companies have a very good relationship with clients and brokers. So the maturity term has been growing very effectively, and that led us to have a considerable reduction in terms of cost of client acquisition in the primary market. The challenge here is, once again, to continue to have digital channels being a fundamental component of our platform. Our day-to-day challenge is to be able to assess conversion rates and cost of client acquisition, which have to be more attractive through different channels, Google, Zap, whatever we can do to generate contact, to structure our projects where our own channels become increasingly more relevant with better conversion rates for our own channels. So we'll be able to become more relevant at the national level. Next, please. I'll now turn it over to Guilherme. Good afternoon, everyone. I am Guilherme Ribeiro, head of Desenrola. It's a Proptech which has just turned two, and we're able to validate our business model. Today, we have a powerful team, 100 employees, very engaged with the company's purpose. In this journey, we learned a lot, and today we are working hard to become a reference in this environment of real estate startups in Brazil. Next, please. We believe that in terms of real estate, we see an important change in people's lives. And our idea is to turn that experience into something memorable. When people achieve their dreams, that has to come with a very positive impact on the families. On the next slide, we believe that technology is a tool which is essential for that process. And it brings functionalities and it also empowers clients. It should be used in a very intensive manner. People deserve technology, but they deserve more. They deserve customized service, humanized or humane service with all the attention that they deserve. So we offer a shared journey where our employees are walking hand in hand with our clients, offering a curatorship as they select a new home for their families. On the next slide, we transform that what used to be a real estate transaction into a relationship management procedure. And we do that through a digital platform, which wholly transforms the whole journey from the purchase to the management of the real estate property. And that allows us to follow up on everyone's steps. In the world where we're living in right now, the beginning and the end of the process can all be digital, but the most important part of the journey, it needs to have a customized service. And in our business model is based on digital. We are bringing together those technological advances with what the human being can do best, which is to provide quality service, to understand what the client needs, and to be able to help those clients along their real estate journey. And how can we do that? I'll ask to show the next slide. We have created a new system. We have this digital platform. And why did we do this? So that it'll be increasingly easier to find and buy homes. The system we have together was a pioneer in terms of uh, property selection. You can use your uh, cell phone or your computer and you simply speak, say what you want. That, of course, adds inclusion. And we do that as as if this were our everyday activities. We have just launched a map with a series of interest points, including restaurants, schools, and other bits of information, which are quite interactive, very easy to be consulted. And to do that, for the first time in Brazil, we have established a partnership with the company that helped us put this platform together. So that's one of the activities that we do here every day to be able to incorporate technology and innovation into our everyday work. So if we move on a little bit further, we know that all quality real estate company, they have 360 images. Of course, we invested in that also. But we know that when we have a pandemic, difficult moments, this has to become an opportunity for us to advance further, to go farther. So during this period, we took an extra step and we created a real-time virtual visit to the property where the brokers can answer questions, show the place, providing security, safety, and making sure no detail is left behind. So we have really evolved on that front. And that's an example. We need to be paying attention and being constantly adjusting to the fast changes and demands that the market presents.
If we move on a little bit ahead, we can see that this is not just for the final user. Considering the system that we develop internally, we have sales aspect involved in order to improve productivity, the speed of businesses, and optimize the conversion rate. So we need to optimize the conversion of our sales force to do businesses which are ever more recurring and repetitive for everyone. And why do we do that? Because we believe that all the brokers, and I will take the opportunity to congratulate the brokers for their day. So the brokers must do businesses in a systematic way. The objective of Desenrola is to do businesses every month. And we listen to all our employees in different areas of the company, and we have a permanent process of adaptation and constant improvement. We make a lot of investment to empower the commercial team, offering mobility so that everyone can focus on the moment of the journey according to the expertise and specialty. And as a result, what we have on this next slide, you're going to see that we can have structured results, consistent results, and sustainable results. And for that purpose, we improve the performance indicators, gaining gains in relation to the previous quarters. In the second quarter, in relation to the first quarter of this month, we increased by 20% the conversion of leads for visits and increased 14% the conversion of visits for proposals. In other words, the lead of the person who is interested will get in touch with Desenrola, and we increase the number of people who are going to visit the property. We increase the number of proposals related to this, and we therefore led to the closing of businesses. And we also increased the publications by 35%, the number of posts. And but more than having a higher number of posts, we are looking at the quality of the posts, the quality of the properties and how they are distributed and their liquidity. And we did all that, decreasing the CAC of the cost of that publication by 29%. And to conclude the presentation, this is our last slide. We're still in the beginning of this growth process, and we opened a unit in Niterói, and we studied this city very carefully. We wanted to understand all the places we operate so that we can have this proximity with the local market and make all the necessary adaptations so that we can all be on the same page. And we also started to expand the operation in São Paulo City, which is essential to our growth. With this, we start a scale-up phase. We are a startup in an expansion phase, and we started this process of geographical expansion. Very soon, we are going to launch a new product so that we can have more complete offers to the market. And we know that by using intelligence and data, we'll be able to offer more assertiveness to the businesses and improve the results. To whom? To everyone, to all our stakeholders. And what's your vision for the future? We are going to be a real estate office with service, which will be a benchmark present in dozens of cities in Brazil. This is Desenrola. Come and join us. Thank you, Guilherme. So good. Can we move on? Good afternoon. I'm Thiago. As Daniel introduced me, I'm the head of Credimorar. This is the company of credits for Brazil Brokers Group. It's an honor to be here talking to you, talking to the investors, showing the company to you. What's your vision for the future, for our business? And after all, it's a market which is undergoing extreme transformation, and we are here looking for innovation and technology so that we can provide more speed to our business. This is a very slogan of Credimurar that expresses what we do here. So it goes, the key to your dreams is here. So we are at the extreme, at the beginning of the journey of the client, which is to make the client's dream come true, namely to purchase a property, and they use the credit to make this dream come true. So we have a team operating at this end, prepared to provide service to the client. We have a gigantic portfolio that represent Credit Morar across the country. So this slogan represents what Credit Morar does in each person's lives for all of those who touch our business. Today, we are the largest independent platform of real estate credit. And the question is, why would you choose Credit Morar for your real estate loan process? We have multi-bank process, we have partnerships with the largest private banks in the country. And when I talk about credit, I'm referring to banks that represent the origination of 55% that happens in Brazil, and we have partnerships with those banks. The service provided by our team from the moment you simulate the credit and by the time you issue the agreement with the bank that you chose, we have the qualified team to provide the necessary service to you. So this team or this professional or those professionals are always on the lookout for the best condition for you, for the client, for the partnership, and in the choice of the best unit, considering the deadlines, the durations, and the rates according to your income and pocket. We have a history, and this history has to continue. So, what is the purpose that we have here in the long term for Credimorar? It's a marketplace of financial services, multi-bank and multi-product. And to that end, during the journey of this client, we need to have the process ever more clear, ever more fluid, and provided the transparency demanded by the client in its uh, credit loan financing. And to that purpose, the Credit Integrados is a digital platform that was built here with the partnership of our IT and projects team that was developed to provide the visibility at the moment of offering the credit. So the client visits the unit, and when they come to the moment when they have to have this loan credit, they need to have the visibility required for the client's dream to come true. So this platform integrated the credit product and the home equity product, and along with the banks that we have as partners. So this was a very important step that we have already given this year, and we've been working so that at the end of the quarter we can make headway on the journey of this process of providing visibility to the client. So the next step that we have here, which is also very important, is to integrate more banks and more products which are interesting and are fully integrated with the real estate credit or the finances as part of the client's journey. So this portal is going to be offered to our partner team, and that involves a lot of partners that bring us the results together with the commercial team, and they will all have access to this portal. And with that, we'll be able to implement the NPS so that we can identify the hiring process where and how we can improve the process. So this is a very important tool for Credimorar. This is the front of Cred Integrados, which is a portal. Very easy to use, user friendly, and requires a basic uh, number of bits of information so that you can do the checks you require. This has already been tested, and we focused a lot on this project so that we could have it complete and usable. So integrated here, we have the credit products with the banks with whom we have partnerships and the home equity products and the partners. So it's nothing less, all you have to do is to request a simulation. You as a partner, as a broker, when you're showing the unit to your client, inside the unit you can run the simulation with your client. So it will give you the comparisons of what it would be the best offer, and inside the same platform you can require a, a credit analysis to understand the purchase potential of this client, and you can use this potential for a sale of a real estate unit that the client may not have understood that he could afford. And for the partner, this visibility of end to end from uh, from contracting the credit transaction will provide the visibility, and he will understand at which step it is in the bank process and what needs to be done so that this process can move ahead. So there's a back office by Credimorar, which are a qualified team will make this process to move on so that we can make the connections with the process so that we can have a very fluid process. So this is one of the main projects of Credimorar, and it's very relevant. There are many people involved, as Daniel mentioned. Some of them are not here, but they are behind this effort, and they have been working very hard on this. And all the projects related to the product or financial products, they will be included in this platform. So as a partner, you'll be able to choose the product you want for your client, and your client will have the availability of all the process inside this platform. This is a very important slide for the company, and it tells about what we have already done and the potential that Credimorar has within Brazil Brokers Group in relation to credit. And this shows what the company is in the market. So in the past 4 years, we were able to produce 7.4 billion in credit, and this accounts for more than 22,000 families that look for us to have their loan. So since 2017, we have this information, and we have the information on a quarterly basis, and we can see the evolution of the company. In the last quarter, 2021, we produced more than 1.200 million reals in credit, involving all the banks with whom we have partnerships, Santander, Itaú, Bradesco. So we can see this huge growth in this period. So this is something that of which we are very proud, and there's a lot of work involved by our team. Many people were engaged so that we can gain more speed and optimize the sales for the company. So this is something of which we are very proud, representing what we have done and what we will do, and with our company, Credit Morar. When I talked about products, because we want to bring other products that are related to financial services. So there is a product which is very important at the market. Or in other words, this is something that has been gaining importance, which is the consortium. It's a product that at first is considered an investment, and at a certain time you would make this product tangible into something. So you can purchase your real estate unit, and when you choose, or when you give an amount to receive the whole amount, you can make this amount tangible. So this is linked to all the vertical items of the group, and when the person receives the total sum from the consortium, this this can be become tangible. And considering all that the country has gone through, we can see that this product has grown in importance. This is a product that's going to be part of our portfolio, and all the products are connected with the indicators of the partners. And this is a product that we have been placing a lot of bets on. And the last product we are going to talk about is a product that is fully related to the real estate loan processes for different reasons. The personal credit has different destinations. You can have collaterals and guarantees, or use an app of Santander, for example, where you can have a personal loan providing your car as a guarantee. So SIM is a digital platform, and it's a product that we're going to include in the Credit Integrados. It's a very easy process, very easy to be done, very quick. And when a person enters the unit, and if the client needs to make renovation or needs to remodel the unit, and they want to have an extra credit, so as to make some payments, so we have the offer of this product, which is linked to all the other products. So this is a product in which we are going to invest, so that we can bring it to relevant levels, considering all our turnover. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Tiago. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Carlos Basset, Technology Director of the group. I don't have a lot of time to give my presentation because we would like to have some time for the Q&A session. So I'm going to try to be brief, agile. And you have my contact. If you have any questions, you can get in touch, and it will be a pleasure for me to talk to you. You heard a lot about client and transformation, and technology has been undergoing major transformation at the company. We try to use technology to improve the performance of the company and ensure better results. And that involves the digitalization of the process, and we try to optimize the processes as well by means of technology. Tiago, who is head of business, talked about API. It's a technological solution where you can talk to the client or to the supplier in a quicker manner. And online, you can exchange information in a very quick manner. You plug in to the client and you exchange information. This is great. It provides more speed to the business. And when we are not able to use API, we use RPAs, robotic process automation. We make an automation of processes by means of robots. So if we need to enter the screen of a client of a system, copy that screen, we can instead use a robot, and the robot does not go on vacation, does not drink coffee, and works 24 hours, 7 days a week. And what we have been working on already is with artificial intelligence. And there was a question related to this, related to blockchain and digitalization. Yes, we are looking at this. There are many things related to regularization of all those tools, and we have been monitoring all this. And I see that this is a sure way for the future. Yes, we are using this technology. We do not use technology just for the sake of it. We are a tech, we are a real estate company, but we use technology focused on the client. We always try to optimize and improve the client's experience.
For all of that to happen, as Andrea and Daniel said early on, we're also going through a larger reorganization. We already had started working around the way we use technologies in-house. Before we would buy equipment, we would manage equipment across two different data centers. The first thing we did was to put it all together. We looked for an international uh, data center. We're the largest in the world. Now we use infrastructure as a service. I don't need to worry about the fact whether or not it has capacity or whatever. We can do that based on our needs in a very straightforward manner. We also put together a 24/7 structure, quite proactive. If something crashes or slows down, we can quickly respond, and safety improvements as well. That's a very critical topic. You just saw what happened with Renner, the chain store, the store chain, department store. The question is not whether we're going to be hacked, but when we're going to be hacked. You as an individual or as a company, the risk is always present that this might happen. And we need to be prepared for that, to respond to those attacks. We have a plan in place for that. LGDP, we have that also in place. We had a consultancy company to help us with that, helping us include all the rules, all the processes within the company. Having said that, and Q2, where we had it all up and running, we started developing. And Daniel mentioned we put the quads together, we improved our model, we implemented Agile Scrum, which is the ability to bring the business area closer into the tech area and make them work as one single team. When Guilherme Ribeiro was speaking, and all my colleagues as well, Tiago, we're talking about technology. Everybody talks about technology. So it's very much ingrained in the business. And we did it in a way where we have the head who will define what they need. We created an area around products that is in close contact with the business model. They understand what the need is. They check whether that need has been addressed in-house or whether it needs to be built from scratch. Then the tech area will start working on it. And we work in a very fast manner. At every 21 days, we are delivering a new function. So that provides transparency in addition to speed. We have defined an architecture including AI, APIs, and so on and so forth. There's an area dedicated to that. And when that's ready, we started our journey towards the cloud. I have a legacy of infrastructure as a service, and whatever comes that is new, will be cloud-based. That will give me more speed. I can start small and grow as the need arises. It is a more elastic approach. Next, we are now ramping up our telecom structure across all our offices. And for 2022, we'll start working with AI, data lake analytics, and data mining as well. I'll have loads of information that need to be addressed in a more efficient manner. Next slide. In terms of continuous improvement, we work in sprints. So every 21 days, I deliver something to the business. Since January, we've had 4 squads, 30 professionals. We have conducted 51 sprints, 28,000 hours in development, and 467 new functions have been delivered within our solution packages. That's an overview to try and help you understand what we do in terms of technology transformation. Next, please. You also listened or heard Guilherme talking about the digital model. We are a real estate company. We understand that buying a property or leasing a property, it's not the same as buying a pair of shoes or a piece of clothing through a portal. It's not any, it's not done by impulse, but it can start digitally and also be finalized under a digital model. And with that, we have to include search technology, where clients can find the geographical location, find out what can be found close to that property. We do have professional photos within the solutions. People can take a virtual tour along with a broker explaining, answering questions, and actually schedule a visit through the digital channel. And then we go to the physical part. That's why we call it digital, digital plus physical. So after this physical in-person visit, we have the negotiation part, either for purchase or for credit. That can also happen either physically or digitally. We do not believe in a model which will be 100% digital. It's a different type of purchase, but it can be hybrid. I'll now move over to Monique, who will be talking about our main asset, which is our employees and also our culture. Thank you for your attention. I think you are on mute, Monique. Still on mute. Can you hear me now? I apologize, technical glitch in my headphone. Well, we just heard a lot about technology. I'd like now to change gears a little bit. And the motto here is there is no digital transformation without a cultural transformation. You've heard about it, of course. It'll become clearer on the next slide. And the answer is quite simple. And the answer is quite simple. Organizations do not transform themselves. People do it. And also, culture is the main fuel of any transformational journey. So on that slide, we can see culture is responsible for defining the mindset, for creating skills, for awakening values, and about delivering technology and innovation at the bottom of the pyramid. So even when you have so many changes in the world and the changes in consumption behaviors, people remain at the center of the strategic pyramid because through their skills and attitudes, they can make business thrive. So when we talk about digital or phygital, we believe technology is an engine for transformation. Our cultural capital, our talents in the company serve as fuel, and they do represent the real competitive advantage towards making those transformations really happen. So how to make that cultural transformation become a fact? By building a strong and clear culture, well defined, consistent. And here at Brazil Brokers, that journey is based on collaboration. 92% of the company actively participates in the project. That translates in about 590 people involved in our surveys, discussion groups, discussion with our leaders, and from that strategic planning, which appears on the right-hand side of the slide, we created our purpose and defined our values. Most importantly, they are all in those three elements are in sync and they ensure consistency and effectiveness of the culture. That's why the cultural transformation sits at the core, at the center of those three elements. Next. So from now on, Brazil Brokers uh, announces, officially announces for the first time our purpose. Our official statement is that Brazil Brokers exists to transform each real estate experience a unique partnership. That has to do with the way we do business, the way we treat our clients, the way we reach out for long-term relationships. That's why we call them unique partnerships. And lastly, to make all that happen, to really materialize that purpose, we have our values underlying that, the principles that underline all those involved in that transformation, and which also allow us to work more independently and being more accountable as well. So on a step-by-step, we believe in the power of relations, which has as its basis uh, good interactions with clients, partners, suppliers, employees, all stakeholders. We want a clean game, fair game. Transparency is the basis of a sustainable management model. Fair game, entrepreneur spirit. Uh, might sound as a cliche to talk about the owner spirit, to really take ownership of the company, but it's true. To innovate is to create value. Even in small innovations that help us in our everyday work, that make people have a shorter and more effective journey. To fascinate the client is the peak of our strategy. And lastly, we are driven by results. We believe that everything we do uh, only makes sense if they are profitable across our ecosystem. So that's as I said, the first time we've announced that. The idea is to align our behaviors. We are now working on action plans that seek to materialize our values, and I turn it over back to Daniel for his final remarks. Daniel, over to you. Thank you. And as we've been saying throughout the whole presentation, what we have done this year so far is a cultural transformation, a digital transformation. It is a transformation per which we now have a clear purpose of transforming each real estate experience into something unique based on strategic pillars around digital transformation, client journey, profitability. We talked about uh, digital transformation thoroughly today. So all of that sits on a base of six values. entrepreneurship, fair game, relationship, innovate, create client, to fascinate the client, results driven. And with that, we have reached exceptional results, a revenue growth quite significant in the past year. We had the best EBITDA, the best result for the company in recent history. All of that through technology and innovation with 28,000 hours of development work and delivering 467 new functions within our systems. All of that to improve our performance. That's the bottom line objective for us, to improve the company's performance, improving relationship, improving cost control, variable cost control, revenue, translate all of that into the better cost of client acquisition, and I focus on digital transformation, as we explained earlier, through Credit Morar and Desenrola. And of course, permeating all the companies across the group so that all companies may reach increasingly better results. Well, we have extended the presentation, but we do have a couple of questions. We won't have time to address all questions. Let's move on, please. We'll now start the Q&A session. Some of them are the same, so I'll try to group some of those questions. Other questions have already been answered through the presentation, so I'll try to optimize the whatever time we have left. First question, I'll try to follow some kind of order here. First come, first served. Just hang on a second. There's a question from Leandro. Are there innovation changes involving blockchain? Bassetti, if you want to address that one very briefly, please. Yes, we have been keeping a close eye on that. In addition to being the head of technology, I also had new businesses, so we have been searching for opportunities around that. A lot of legal issues to be discussed yet. We also have very traditional ways of controlling that. I have been seeing a lot of tokens being introduced here in Brazil. But what we see, the answer is yes to the question. We are looking at it, and that's a course of no return. And we're going to be joining that trend very soon. Another question from Leandro for Andrea. When will the company close the fronts which are losing money and focus on what's more profitable? We are already doing that when we have restructured parts of the business. We are already doing that. We are decreasing the number of stores. We are not licensing brands which are not profitable. We have communicated that before for Liborio as an example. So stores where we have no positive results, which are losing money, are being closed already. It's not going to happen overnight. We need to be careful in threading that, but we are doing that in answer to your question. As a complement, today, all companies in the group, they deliver positive results today. Exactly, exactly, yes. And next question from Posterol to Guilherme Ribeiro. Is Vivera part of the group? Is it a startup? What kind of investment? Well, Convera is part of the group. It was created last year, and today it has an operation totally managed by Desenrola. Very good synergy with our operating routines, and we can do that because we use a concept where we have a chat service and a central hub servicing all our units and Convivera. Today we have about 73,000 lots of about 30 developers. But it doesn't have enough volume to be an independent player. Just as a complement, today Conviver is a department within Desenrola. It's not a standalone company. It doesn't have a corporate number per se. It does not have a support team. It is a commercial department under Desenrola. So, and it only exists because as Brazil Brokers adopted a model which is client-centric, for the for those clients, it made more sense to have a brand such as Conviver to meet their commercial needs. Okay? Okay. Today it is managing lots.
It's still the question is still to Guilherme Ribeiro. Gelson de Freitas asked the question, what was the growth of Desenrola in the last quarter and the number of transactions carried out? With the contract of 3 steps, it was a bit difficult to visualize so many indices we showed during the presentation, but we would like to see it more clearly. We have increased the number of businesses in a systematic level, especially in São Paulo, which is our focus of growth. And the growth has been very significant in the number of cap uh, collections. And in Niterói, we can already see some results. We haven't closed the first month, but we saw improvements or success in the number of rents, and this is likely to grow systematically. We cannot disclose all the numbers specific, but there has been improvement. There was a question from 3 different people. I'm going to say specifically who asked the question, but I think Andrea can answer this question. Can there be a spin-off in Credimorar or Desenrola? Yes, all the companies that generate results, Desenrola, Biara, Bumber, all of them are uh, they have independent corporate identification number. I don't know if this is the question, but all of them are independent, and they are part of the group. Okay, great. There's a question here. I believe, let me see it. Just a second. I'm looking at the chat to see the questions. The question is addressed to Andrea, and the question is, the cash can be a problem for the expansion of scale-ups of Credimorar or Desenrola or for the future of the company as a whole. Okay, today our cash level is very limited. That's why we choose very carefully all the investments we make so that we can be very assertive. So the answer is yes. Today it can have some growth. We can block some investments because of this cash restrictions, and we are considering the capitalization so that we can make the necessary investments so that we can scale up the company. Okay, thank you, Andrea. there's a question that Guilherme Blumer can answer. The question is, Brazil brokers in relation to other companies that have been operating with more capital and make acquisitions in the market. How does our company stand in relation to the others? We have a company that converse with others. So we have seen lots of M&A transactions. So we can see communication between Credimorar and Desenrola, and these companies communicate. So the ecosystem is favored by this. I believe that there is room for everyone. So the real estate market is pulverized here and there, and sometimes we compare it to the market in the United States, and the share can reach 5%, and we can compare it to the automaker market, where we understand that we are very well positioned. That there's a lot of market out there, and there are many specific niches where we can operate, and we can have channels for strong revenues. So we are well positioned with the building of this platform that involves all the group. Thank you, Guilherme. Wagner added to the question he asked, and he asked about moving on independently by raising funds in an independent manner. Yes, today this is part of a strategic decision by the company, and if this happens, we are going to inform the market at the right time according to the support provided by our legal department. Thank you, Andrea. There's another question that comes from different sources. They are very similar questions, but they all relate to labor lawsuits. What the measures that are being adopted to reduce the filing of new labor suits? Today, we have been able to avoid the filing of labor lawsuits because of our payment system, where the broker receives directly from the client, and so there's no labor relationship established with the broker. So that's why it's difficult for the broker to prove that he's connected to the company. So as an information, all the previous labor suits required proof of labor relationship, but now it's difficult to claim that because now the broker receives directly from the client, and also the labor reform protects the company more, because if the broker wants to enter a lawsuit, they will have to pay all the court expenses. And considering that this has been working fine and the strategies have been successful, we we understand that this has been very successful because in the second quarter 2021, no labor lawsuit was filed. Okay, thank you. A question to Monique from Posteral. Who are the new board members, Juliana, Monica, and how can they contribute to the company? Can you hear me? Yes. So we have 2 independent board members. It's proof of what we believe in terms of diversity and inclusion, so that we can have a more diverse debate environment. And we believe that this composition at the board is aligned with the moment that the company is experiencing, and this is going to contribute a lot in a constructive debate. And what about the second question? What was that? Who are they? Juliana has a lot of expertise in ESG. She's very experienced in all practices. And Monica is specializes in the finance market, and she has a lot of experience in international market, and we understand that those two board members can add a lot to this digital transformation moment by bringing in new ways of looking at the business. And we have also the reinforcement in our ESG practices. Thank you, Monique. I still have a question for you related to the model of compensation, stock options, and what we have modeled in terms of what we have modeled for this year and how did the change take place. Okay, here we go. As to stock option, it's a compensation strategy for the long term that aligns the officers to the leadership with the strategic objectives of the company in the long term, so that we can have a longer chain, a longer view. This strategy was prepared by a specific consulting firm that specializes in compensation, so that we can bring in the good practices in the market, and so that we can be neutral in this constructive attitude. And this effort has been approved by the board. So this is aligned in the stock option, and when this is offered to the leaders. Okay, great. I would like to say that we are receiving some compliments in the chat, not only questions. So it's always nice to receive compliments. Let me see if there's anything else. I think we have managed to complete the agenda and answer all the questions. Let me see if I'm missing out something. Does anybody remember any question that you saw in the chat that I missed? I don't think so. Oh, yes. There's a question here about shareholders. Shareholder Cerberus has been a very important partner in this digital transformation process. It is very relevant in the board decisions, and it has helped us a lot. It has been a very important partner, both for advising and also in relation to the approval processes. And I believe that the change or the partner with Cerberus, and because it became a relevant shareholder for the company, it was a very important decision that the company made. Once again, it makes a difference. It makes a difference to have a shareholder such as Cerberus in our board. So all we can do is to thank everyone with Cerberus who have helped us to make or undergo this important transformation. All right, we still have a question I'm going to ask that came from two or three people, and it is related to LGPD. So, what's the stand of the company in relation to the LGBT? So, we've been working with LGBT for a while. Since last year, we have a consulting firm that has provided us with all the support. So, we made all the adequations, all the adaptations. There are many definitions that still need to be made, and we are making all the necessary adjustments according to the regulations imposed to the market. But we are, yes, aware of it. Thank you. I'm going to open for another question that came from an employee. And since this is the first question from an employee that I saw, the question is there any project aligning in search of synergy? So I'd like to Thiago and Bloomer to answer together. I can start. Yes, there's something being developed in a partnership with the group. I'm going to disclose it now, which is a construction process that involves Credit Morar and Desenrola in the business segment, about which Tiago has already commented on. I'm going to talk about a campaign that's going to be launched in the next few days. And I would like to say hi to everyone who took part in the process and were in the Telegram group. Would you like me to talk about the project? Okay, I can do that. So we are going to have a campaign that will involve Credit Morar and Desenrola in the process of providing the real estate as a guarantee. One of the question was how is the real market going to grow? It's a clear example of the force of the group and what we can build from acquisition of properties for rent and how we can do home equity using the secondary market and the finished units. And it's very close to what Credit Morar e Desenrola has been doing. I think the speed that we can do, we can impose here because we work hand in hand with lots of efforts and we can regulate and discuss and we can launch a service in 2 or 3 weeks. And this is something that happens on an everyday basis. We have a consulting team that are work exclusively for each unit of the group in the unit of finished units. So it's a partnership that we already have at the moment of sales. So we have a partnership with the Desenrola in the product of home equity using of all this. So we have partnerships with different banks and fintechs here, investment groups, with the product of home equity, which is being talked a lot about lately. It's a product that has no destination for the money. You do it for a small renovation project or to invest in something else or without a definite destination. And today we have a partnership also with Abiara. And when we mention everything that Abiara sold in the last few years, and this involves a lot of transfers, so we are going to work on those transfers to the bank. We want to make it clear that we are going to be working with Abiara and with those clients up to the end of the year. So we have some clients that are going to come on board for this, and this is something that has already been happening. And this will be more focused on, but this has already started. We are going to provide more speed to this, and all this is very quick.
In addition to that, we also have a partnership between Desenrola and Bamberg in São Paulo. So there is an exchange of properties belonging to both companies at BBRJ. We also have a partnership between them and Cred Morar. They have a product around real estate transfer. So several different initiatives within the group that sit around another pillar, the pillar called ecosystem, which allows us to have upsides, upsellers, uh, and we were able to increase significantly along those lines. So those are initiatives that they're doing really well. So I'd like to thank you all for participating in this event today. I am sure that this has been a very, very good experience. We should do this more often. I hope you have all enjoyed the meeting. I hope you have acquired relevant information. And if you need more information, if you need your questions answered, if your question has not been answered, I apologize because there were so many questions here on the chat box. But in any event, our RI channel remains open and available for your questions, comments, investors, future investors, and employees. Of course, we meet our employees every Friday at 3 p.m. when you know you can ask whatever you want. Or you can send me a WhatsApp message or an email message. My channel is always open to you. Thank you. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Be safe. Bye bye. Thank you.